Well, if it isn't another Street Fighter video. We're so close to launch, and with hype at its peak for a new era of Street Fighter, I can say I am more and more excited with each day we get closer to release. However, as much as I am ready for the game to come out already, my brain is also contemplating what the post-launch game will be like. We got our reveal of the first season character pass with Rashid, Ed, Akuma, and new character Aki being announced for the game. 4 characters over the course of a year. Capcom's confidence is through the roof, huh? Anyways, it got me thinking about something. Fighting games have many things that attribute to their success monetarily: graphics, mechanics, content, variety. But when all's said and done, the first and foremost aspect of a fighting game that is important for its success is roster. Characters sell fighting games, and no matter how big or small in counting, a good roster will make your fighting game long lasting and keep players satisfied as they're able to express themselves with the various options at their disposal and pick the character that's relatable to their desired playstyle or just visually stimulating to control, no matter how badass or goofy that selection may be. Street Fighter, in my opinion, is a standout among the rest in terms of roster, with each new title not only adding a slew of new characters, but creating new fighters with unique personalities that have gone on to become even more staple characters than our classic cast. 6 seems to be following suit, as our new lineup of World Warriors seems to be the most favorable new fighters we've gotten in the franchise period, which is fantastic as a breath of fresh air for the series. However, with each new character shown alongside our veteran icons who are also looking and playing as good as they have ever been, there's even more of a desire and curiosity to see more of the characters that we know and love make a comeback from previous games. That being said, I'd like to share with you some characters I feel should and would make a reappearance in the new title, with my top 10 returning World Warriors for Street Fighter 6. But first, a couple of rules, because if there weren't any, I'd just say everyone. Though any character may return, no matter the longevity, priority is made for characters that have shown up very sparsely in the games, no matter if they were playable or otherwise. It must be a character I feel will represent their respective origin game well enough on their own merits, and the character must bring something unique to the aesthetic and presentation of Street Fighter 6 in their own way, ranging from personality to fighting style. Also, before we get started, I just want to reiterate that these are my picks, not definitive or correct picks. There are many characters that could make a return in SF6 and beyond. These are just the ones that I have interest in seeing in this particular game. Welcome to Bias. If you have your own different selections, please feel free to comment down below your choices, as I'm curious to see who you guys would pick as well. Alright then, let's go! Oh wait, one more thing before we start. Ladies and gentlemen, here are my top 5 characters I do not want to see come back in Street Fighter 6. Number 5, Vega. I understand that he is a legacy character and one of the 4 kings, but goddamn do I have no interest in seeing this man again. With Shadaloo no longer a central antagonist, it seems, his relevance seems extremely lower than his fellow kings, not to mention I feel you can create a new character similar to him, much like they've been doing with a few new characters in 6 already, like Kimberly, Jamie, and Lily, so yeah, bye. Number 4, Kadin. As much as I love this character and her troll-ass rich girl personality, I cannot help but feel like she can sit this one out. She dominated Street Fighter V and basically made it her game alongside characters like Cammy, but unlike Cammy, Kadin is not a staple world warrior who needs to come back, and I feel she was represented in 5 well enough for a little rest. Number 3, Abel. Simply put, he is the least interesting hero character in the entire franchise in my opinion, and with the existence of Manon, a character whose fighting style is a more interesting version of his, I feel there is no reason for this character to return even more. Sorry Abel fans, I just don't see it happening or want it to. I'd rather Popeye. Number 2, Poison. I love me some Poison, but holy shit has she been in literally all of the games since Street Fighter X Tekken. In terms of Final Fight characters being added to the roster, she can definitely sit this one out, by proxy that she's been around long enough to have been a representative for Final Fight for years. No, Cody is not the same thing because he is the Final Fight main character, so I feel you need him for the other additions to bounce off of. I'd rather see other Final Fight characters come back honestly in place of her. And number 1, Fong. Holy shit, Fong. He is, in my humble opinion, the worst new character to be introduced in the entire franchise. They really thought they were going to replace Sagat with this weak ass character as the new 4th king of Shadaloo, like he was anywhere near as cool. His gameplay is dumb and annoying, his character design is garbage, his personality stinks, he just fucking sucks. I'd take 1 shot of Necalli, 2 pints of Rufus, and a gallon of 12 before I ever could utter the words, hey, Fang should come back. Besides, the new character Aki is related to him apparently and already looks way more interesting, so nope. Capcom, bury this character and never let him be resurrected. In fact, just forget where you buried him entirely. Let the worms take him. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, we'll start.
The show must go on.
You know, I get that we really don't talk about the first Street Fighter. It was a clunky, stiff, busted, and unfair mess of a game even then. But it was the first. If not for this game, we would not have this series we adore so much, no matter how terribly it's aged. As such, I feel we need a representative character for 6 to give its flowers to the game that started it all. Let's see. Retsu. He is the first character you fight in the entire series, but too complicated to age up to me. Not to mention too plain of a design. Geki? Nah, he's just pre-Vega. Also, he's dead apparently. Mike, it's just Balrog. Lee? Racist? Joe, white DJ. So who the hell can... Ah, there we go. Perfect. Eagle would be a welcome addition to the SF6 roster as a returning character. His character would be a refreshing and unique addition, seeing as he has a unique design and he is the only fighter in the series to use Bojutsu other than Falk from SF5. His gameplay would be unique as he is a character who always uses his sticks in combat, which would basically make him an offensive wall to conquer, especially when you consider it alongside mechanics like drive, impact, or reversals. It would also be interesting to see his lore realized as well, as they could have him interact with Ryu in reference to their bout in the first game, or interact with Gaio as he did in 3 Max to stop Shadowloo. Maybe make reference from Ryu's standpoint about fighting such a unique style. Honestly, the only reason he's so low is because I just don't think it'll happen. Eagle is just too obscure of a character for me to see Capcom giving him the time of day, but one can hope. Eagle spins into the 10 spot like a gentleman.
Down for the count.
Speaking of gentlemen, we move on to another suave character that deserves a spot in Street Fighter 6. Dudley. Every fighting game needs a boxer character, and Street Fighter 6's boxer should be Dudley. I believe he is the perfect replacement for a boxer selection, typically being Balrog, since his gameplay is less unga bunga and more coordinated like actual boxing, focusing on footwork, counters, and precise striking. His gameplay seems as if it could be melded with 6's mechanics and drive gauge well, allowing him to be more technical and could be unique much like Eagle's, since as a boxer he doesn't use his legs, making him a character with a high skill ceiling worthy of praise from masterful play. However, I do not think he will be showing up anytime soon at least, as they've already announced a boxer character in Ed, the protege of Balrog, which, I mean, I'm so excited. Ed is so interesting. Anyways, even if he doesn't show up sooner rather than later, I still believe when considering the aesthetic and design of 6, there is no better character to come back than our resident chivalrous knight of the streets. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, or more accurately a rose. Though Street Fighter is mainly a series of fighting games, there are other series under Capcom's belt that are considered, if not assumed, to be taking place in the same world. Of course, Final Fight is the first that comes to mind, since FF has such a solid standing in most of their games. But there is another obscure series that is linked to Street Fighter's universe. Rival Schools is a series of games that takes place in the same world as Street Fighter, but revolves more around an anime school setting with the characters being students and teachers. It's a great 3D fighting game with a unique aesthetic style and gameplay that is simple yet complex. Street Fighter V referenced the series with the Kanzuki Beach stage, having the characters Tiffany and Hinata in the background, which funnily enough led to the penultimate tribute being the release of Akira from Rival Schools as a playable character in the final season. But I think we need more. Much more. With the new generation aesthetic returning for 6, I believe it's the perfect time to bring back some characters from this series and having them properly introduced in Street Fighter as New World Warriors. And though I wouldn't mind Akira coming back, I think that they should bring back another character representing the game, and who better than box art boy himself, Botsu. Hell, I was already thinking about him when I saw the rival character Bosch from World Tour. Missed opportunity, by the way, but nonetheless, I immediately began to see him in the game from then on. You can age him up and give him a clever redesign, since he should be around the same age as Sakura would be by now, and his fighting style would make him a good all-rounded fighter for both veteran and new fans to enjoy. With rough, impactful strikes you can feel through the controller as you play. In lore, you can maybe make him the new principal of Taiyo High, following in the footsteps of his father Raizo, being a protector of the school and its students, which somehow gets him involved with the other members of the cast of 6. With that being said, Botsu comes in at number 8. If there's one thing the streets need, it's justice.
Soul power shall guide me.
There were many characters that were introduced in Street Fighter V that would leave their mark on the series, ranging from cool to Why? However, there was one character that stood above all the rest of the newcomers in presentation, personality, and just overall impact, and that character is without a doubt Menat. Menat is a character that superseded expectations, with even those who have never played or cared for Street Fighter praising this character's design and style. She is easily one of, if not the most interesting new characters to function as a passing of the torch from one generation to another, and with that I feel she deserves some more screen time and development in the next big title. Character design wise, you can lean more into the fortune teller aesthetic, making her more proficient with her soul power manipulation as an apprentice of Rose. The only real issue I have with Menat is just her playstyle. It is interesting, but it is just a bit too technical. If she could be refined and made more accessible than she was in 5, I feel this character could blossom into a new iconic character for the franchise with just that. And lore wise, it would be perfect to have Menat, the new wielder of soul power, go up against or interact with the new wielder of Psycho Power JP, keeping the conflict that once was between Rose and M. Bison in relevance to the series moving forward beyond them. Listen, I love me some Lisa, but it's the perfect time for her protege to take the spotlight. It's just fate, you know? Okay, maybe Rose could come back. So, does anyone remember a little series of Street Fighter games called Street Fighter EX? No? Understandable. A very obscure series of fighting games that have gained somewhat of a cult following, the trilogy had the cast of Street Fighter squaring off against the characters from collaborating company Arika's Fighting Layer. It was a relatively fun time with a shoddy presentation, but very fun design, mechanics, and roster, as well as an incredible soundtrack. It's also the first series of Street Fighter that introduced me to the franchise as a whole with Street Fighter EX plus Alpha. While SF Anniversary Collection was my first foray into learning Street Fighter seriously, it was EX plus Alpha that introduced me to a series that would become so significant to me in the time up to now. That being said, the EX series holds a special place in my heart, so much so that when Arika released a new fighter, Fighting EX Layer, I was hyped up for it more so than any of the other games coming out around that time, even without the Street Fighter characters' inclusion. Speaking on that, I would really like to see a Fighting Layer character added to the roster of SF6 in the future for representation of such an obscure yet unique trilogy of games. Their movesets have already been acclimated to a control style like Street Fighter, so reworking them into the game and implementing the new drive system into their kit would honestly be child's play in my opinion. Problem is, I cannot pick one character over any other, as I feel any of them could be placed into the game and it would satisfy me. If I had to narrow it down to 5 characters to be chosen between, I'd say it comes down to Skullomania, Kairi, Hokuto, Garuda, and Pullum. I also want a character from the EX series because god damn it, I want that soundtrack. The EX games has one of my favorite soundtracks in all of gaming, and I think the OST would fit with the aesthetic of 6 in a great way. And you know it too, Capcom. Come on. You know Chun-Li has her best theme in the EX series. Spinning Bird is a banger and it makes me nuts. Bruce Lee is a cultural icon and the outlier that would change martial arts and action cinema forever. His unique style of martial arts and bombastic personality on and off the big screen changed the landscape of entertainment media in many different ways. One such way being, of course, within gaming, especially in the fighting game genre. Fighting games have a tendency to represent the legendary dragon by having a character in their roster I simply dubbed the Jeet Kune clone. Characters like Jackie Bryant, Martial Law, and Liu Kang come to mind immediately when thinking of characters inspired directly or otherwise by Bruce. However, there is one character that I always felt was the true Bruce Lee clone, and that is Fei Long. Fei is about as close to a perfect tribute to Bruce Lee in character design, personality, and style. I mean, literally, his portrait in Street Fighter 2 is quite literally traced. He was missed in 5, a game that I think would have complemented his Rekka gameplay and ground mobility, and I think he should definitely return in 6 to stand alongside his legacy brethren. With how much pop culture influences the aesthetic and feel of 6, I think it'd be appropriate to have the movie star come back as a humble and seasoned martial artist to discipline the warriors of present day, which will reflect more Bruce Lee's philosopher side within the character. Maybe have him be retired from cinema and now just wanting to impart his wisdom and martial arts knowledge to a successor. Make his gameplay traditional while adding maybe some more moves or command normals to his kit to make him more formidable on the ground or against ranged opponents, like maybe a counter move like Collins in SF5. I think that'd be cold as ice. No, I'm not sorry. With that, the Flying Dragon makes it into the top 5 characters due for a return. Be formless, frameless, like water. Yeah, let's just get this over with. Sakura will be and has to be in this game. There is just no denying that our cherry blossom has to come back in this title. Constantly topping popularity polls and becoming arguably even more eidetic to the franchise than our main boy Ryu, there is no denying that she will show up down the road as a new addition to the roster. However, I don't mean to make it seem like she's being shoehorned in. I legitimately believe she should come back for 6. After 5 did so much for her character, making her contemplative about her future and making her incredibly horny for Ryu, I am extremely curious to see what she could become since 6 takes place at the latest point in the timeline. I'm curious if they could have her move past her contemplations, finding her own true purpose in street fighting and maybe allowing her to find her own style from the foundation she'd made from training with Ryu and Dan reflected in gameplay. Either way, the Kasagano name will return to the world of Street Fighter 6 and I am eager to see what awaits her on her new path. Maybe she'll confess to Ryu? Nah, Ryu would just be oblivious. Love, what is this style you speak of? I am curious. Will it bring me greater strength? As stated previously, Final Fight has a huge presence within the Street Fighter franchise, with them sharing many characters and locales across both series. However, would you believe there are characters that have not been in the games to this day? Yeah, it's wild to think since so many have shown up already. But there is one particular Final Fight character whom I feel deserves to finally make his first debut appearance as a playable character within the franchise, and that is Hagar. The fact that Hagar has appeared in so much Street Fighter content, particularly in backgrounds and endings associated with other Final Fight characters, and never been a selectable fighter in any mainline game is baffling to me. Would it not be fascinating to see him come out of retirement from street fighting and wrestling and interacting with other grappler characters like Zangief or Alex? I think it'd be brilliant. Not to mention it'd be refreshing to add another grappler to the roster since the archetype usually makes up the least of the roster. You can make him alike to Zangief where he has attacks that have armor to them but bring in a little uniqueness by adding flair from the Final Fight games, like maybe a weapon system much like how Cody does in previous games. He definitely needs that pipe. I just realized what I said. Look, all I'm saying is that the dude deserves to be in more than just the Marvel side of the spectrum of Capcom fighting games. He's got a lot of potential as a playable fighter, and I really feel he would make a great addition representing Final Fight in a refreshing way. I mean, he's shown up in 6 already as a statue in Metro City. Oh shit, I hope he's not dead. No matter how you look at it, Hagar deserves a slot and makes it into the triple threat for me. Capcom, let him lay pipe. Oh fuck, I did it again. You wouldn't believe it, but we're not done with Final Fight just yet. For there is another character that should return that has appeared in Street Fighter as a playable character before, unlike Hagar, but I feel got shafted harder than Hagar when it comes to being included in the games in general. Capcom, where is our world Weeaboo Sodom? He showed up in the background of a stage in tribute to Final Fight in 5, which was great, but he should definitely have been playable. The fact that 5 became basically Final Fight Revenge 2 and he and Hagar weren't added to that game still confuses me, but in life we move forward and learn from our mistakes. Not only does Sodom have a unique character design, but also unique gameplay style that I feel would be fun to see reworked and refined in Street Fighter 6. In terms of lore, you can have him still be a leader in the Mad Gear gang or lean more into his Japanophile persona, maybe making him work for E Honda at his restaurant or bathhouse or whatever the hell business venture he's taken to now out of respect for his culture. In terms of gameplay, I feel you don't really need to change all that much in terms of his playstyle, but just make it accessible and functional in tandem with the drive system without making it too complicated. And in terms of costume, I mean, he's a weeaboo. Him wearing the same suit as previous would make sense. Just maybe spruce it up with a different color or maybe show age by having a beard come through the bottom of the samurai mask. I honestly don't care what they do. All in all, I'd say that I just feel like the Metro City Samurai deserves his slot in the future, which is why he comes out at number 2. How many body pillows do you think he has? At least one of them stands up on their own by now. And before we move on to our number 1 pick, a few honorable mentions. This character is someone that I feel has an infinite well of potential and an inclusion in 6. It baffles me that they have not been in the previous title and they aren't in the base roster for Street Fighter 6, considering the numerous requests from the community for their addition to the game. Capcom, I need to know. Why the fuck is Makoto not already in Street Fighter 6? You have no excuses. How is it that a character so popular, a character that in your recent popularity poll placed second, beating out mainstays of the series, has not been put back into the games in the time since Street Fighter 4? Don't you like making money? Yeah, you do, so get on it. I know that the devs at Capcom have said that they consider the systems of the next title and the selection of characters to be added or returned, but from my point of view, how does Makoto not make the cut? Her gameplay of countering with fast, precise strikes and stunning her opponents with her brutal damage, I feel, would make for an interesting character in tandem with the mechanics of Street Fighter 6. Let her be a slow, terrifying offensive wall that can be only bested by effective execution through your drive gauge. You can maybe even refine her style, giving her more variations to her moves, or even giving her new moves entirely to make her more effective. Change the behavior of her command grab, or evolve her Seichuzen Godanzuki to make it different from previous games, adding more strikes and visual flair. In lore, simple. She's fighting to prove once again her Rindokan karate is still in the upper echelon of fighting styles. However, now make it so that she doesn't want it for her father's honor in dojo, but for her own honor, now being the master of the dojo, inheriting it from her retired father, and wanting to prove herself against the legendary world warriors and the new generation all at once. Character revamp? Simple. Do what they did with Ken. Not Catch Me If You Can, Ken from SF5 with the banana peel on his head. You can make her design be the same gi from previous titles, but make little changes like color, or maybe even bring the top of the gi down to show her built body underneath with a slim fit tank top. The only thing that cannot be changed is the scarf around her neck. That is the staple. You don't get rid of that. Also make her hair a bit longer maybe, just as a sign of growth. Listen man, I've said enough. I've did your work for you. Do it. Our favorite tomboy deserves her place and she better get it or I will lose it. And with that, the top 10 is over. I don't know how to end these. Leave a like if you agree with this list or enjoyed the video, and as I said earlier, comment down below what characters you would like to see come back if they weren't mentioned. Heck, you know what? Also comment down below what character you think can make it as a guest character to the game. Personally, I think Rock Howard would be a dope guest inclusion since he's got a new game coming out pretty soon with Garo 2, and he could fit in with the new Warriors in 6. A new era of Street Fighter is so close, and I cannot wait to share with all of you fellow World Warriors soon. And if none of these characters make it, then it's fine. I'll just sob and cry and fart like always.